So I just started to clean up this little area here just so that I can stick some tape to it to cover up the hole while I'm painting. And in the process I thought I'd just clean up around here as well, and noticed that there was a little bit of a repair job under the paint, as you can see. It doesn't look too bad, there's no real pinholes that I can notice. There's a few little high spots which I'll probably sand down there, and I think that's pretty much the main one, maybe just one here, and just get them down a little bit more flush. And then the paint will pretty much go over the top of it and you won't even notice it because the cap sits all the way around the outside here anyway. So it is kind of interesting to see what you end up finding underneath paint, because obviously this tank is probably like, what, 40 years old or something. I'm sure there's going to be some dents that have been repaired as well once I really strip it down to bare metal. So let's do that. Let's get some paint stripper on it. I'll tidy this little bit up now, and yeah, and put some tape over that so no paint really gets in there. I'm not really worried about it. I'm going to be pretty much flushing this tank out like thoroughly before I obviously use it. But I just want to stop paint getting in there if I can. So I'll do that and then strip the whole tank down. Painting this tank is probably going to be something that's a little bit more involved than I initially thought, just because it's got all these little veins of rust. It's something, me being a perfectionist, I want to get rid of all of this as much as I can before painting over it. Obviously, you know, sanding all this down completely, and then having this badge, I guess, bracket that's been tacked onto the side of the tank. There's going to be rust behind it, and that's going to annoy me. So what I'm going to do is actually do what I did on that tank over there, and pretty much unstitch it. Well, just basically grind it off. I grind this bracket out and then clean it all up so that when I do run some body filler over that, it's not going to have the rust under it. I know that the oxidization is not going to happen if there's no, obviously, oxygen getting to it, and so it's not going to go any further, but it's just going to annoy me if I know that there's rust under there. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this, just try and get all the rust off as much as possible before I go any further. I'll flip it over and show you the underside. As you can see, the veins of rust are pretty much all over this tank. Like I said, I'm going to spend some time to get rid of it. It's all the way through the seam here. You can see there's just a line of rust. So taking the time to get it as good as I possibly can now will make it last a hell of a lot longer in the long term. So I'm thinking the ultimate way to get rid of the rust on this tank would be to use a wet blast cabinet. I don't actually have one of those at the moment. But you know, I have dry blast cabinets, and I don't really want to use sandblasting in a dry cabinet to try and, you know, get all this off, just purely because the heat that generates could potentially warp this thin steel. I don't know if it can or can't. I don't really want to take that risk, so I'm just going to leave it and just do it all by hand. It's definitely worth it. It's definitely going to make a big difference in the long term of this tank, so let's get into it. So these little guys, when they hit you in the face, they'll hurt like hell. I can't imagine what they'd do if they hit you in the eye. So just make sure you wear eye protection at least. I've got this, and I also use, sometimes, I had it on before, it was a full leather apron. When they hit you on the shirt, it's okay, but you know, try and avoid it if you can. Out of all the little bits and pieces that I've been using to try and get all the little bits of rust and paint off this, by far this thing's the best on the grinder. I'll leave a link to this guy in Amazon if you want to get one for yourself. It's just obviously a higher speed considering it's going on the grinder, and it gets right in those little parts you just can't get to because it is a little bit bigger and deeper as well. So definitely get one if you're going to do this. There are other ways to achieve the same result, but I just want to try and get as much of the rust off as I possibly can, and then the parts that I can't reach, like just in these little parts here, I'll put some rust converter, and that'll be done for that. Then I can actually put some primer on, or sorry, put some body filler on, prime it up, and then sand it all back, wet and sand, and then start laying some paint. Something I wanted to show you here is if you're looking to do a brushed effect on a tank like this, this is a 120 grit sandpaper that I've used. Obviously I haven't been consistent with the motion because I'm not after that effect, but if you were, I guess you could use a 120. If you look close enough, you can see that brushed effect kind of noticeably there. Obviously you could use an 80 grit, would be even more noticeable. I was going up and down. I guess if you were doing it, you probably just start at one end and just push your way through and just keep that motion so it's nice and even. But it's kind of cool. And you can also see now the seam line from manufacture. Obviously when they put them together, there's a little join you can see where my thumbnail is there, and obviously at the top. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. I didn't even know that was there. I guess it makes sense. What I'm going to do now, because the flash rusting has started, I'm going to use a scourer on it over the entire tank and just get rid of all that flash rusting, and use some acetone and just wipe the entire thing down, and then go from there. Quickly threw the tank up on the bike just to see what it would look like as a bare metal tank on this scrambler. I think it looks kind of cool. I don't mind it. It's definitely not the look that I'm 100% after, but it would definitely suit this bike if I wanted to leave it like that. But leave me a comment. I'm just curious as to how many people do like this, or maybe you don't like it. Just leave me a comment. I'll go through them later and check them all out and see what you guys say about it. But I think it does look pretty tough. I'd obviously have to bring in some more silver into the bike to accent that tank a little bit. So this stuff here that I'm going to use is rust converter. You can get it at pretty much any auto place. All the places that I was unable to get to with the wire brush or grinder or sander or whatever, I'm just going to dab this on. You don't have to do this process because when you put paint on, paint's going to stop the oxidization process anyway, and it'll pretty much not rust any further. I just like to do it. You don't have to do this, but it's just something that I figured doesn't cost anything, and it's you know, it's pretty easy to do, so why not? Now that the rust converter has done its thing, I've done a little bit here and a few little spots all over here to get rid of that rust. I've wiped the entire thing down with acetone, which is down here. So that's done. Now it's a matter of just putting some etch primer on the steel. So this is the etch primer that I'm using, Concept Paints. It looks like it's made in Australia, family owned in Australia, so if you're in Aussie, obviously you can get that. I don't know if you can get it overseas, but it's just an etch primer, so I can't imagine it being anything fancy compared to anything else out there. The putty that I'm using is Rust-Oleum spray. I guess it's just a spray putty, nothing fancy about that either. Just going to be putting that on and obviously following the instructions on the back, and then after that's done, then I'll do the 600 grit sand to get it all perfect, and then obviously the paint after that, and I'll show you the paint as I use it and how I'm going to do it. Before I put the spray putty on, what I want to do is just fill this guy up first with some putty, obviously. So I'm going to do that and then sand that back, try and get that nice and perfect, and then I'll put the spray putty on and then sand the entire thing down with 600 grit sandpaper. So this side went really well. I've only sanded it with 120 sandpaper and you can't really feel that edge, so I'm really happy with that, but I'll go over it just with something a little bit finer. And then on this side, did the complete opposite. I feel like the edge is starting to pretty much just break off. It's not sticking to the tank for some unknown reason, I don't know why. So I think I'll do this side again. I'll just scrape all this off and mix some more. Whether I use too much hardener or not enough, I'm not too sure, but yeah, I just want to get it right. So now that this has happened on this side, I'm a little bit suspect on the other side as well. I'm not sure if I need to sand this Etch Primer a little bit to get this body filler to adhere a little bit better, but what I'm going to do on my second attempt is get rid of all of this primer, the Etch Primer, and then put it directly to the steel. I think that will stick a lot better, especially if it's coarse sanded like that. So that's 1,000 times better. That filler goes directly on the steel a lot better than it does the paint. It was literally just peeling off the paint. So that's obviously the way to do it as far as I know. It's super smooth now. I started out with 80 grit just to get this stuff to stick onto the steel, and then I went to a 120. So there's no edge, you can't feel any edge there, which is perfect. Now the next step is to put the spray body filler over the entire thing. Actually Etch Prime this first to cover up all that steel, and then the spray putty filler, and then sand it all back, and then I'll do my first layer of black. I've put about, I guess, 3 to 4 coats over the entire tank, just pretty much the top surface area. Obviously I'm not too worried about the underside. There's a few problem areas. There's one down here, there's one here you might be able to see on the camera, a little dish, and there's also a little one of those exactly the same on the other side, on back here on the other side. So they're just the things that I've got to pretty much try and sand out. I guess worst case scenario, I'll have to get some more putty primer if I can't sand them out, and just keep working at it until I do. Had I really thought about it, I could have used that other putty to actually fill up those little gaps before I started, but I'm pretty sure I'll be able to get them out. So that was the next step. I'm just going to sand this guy down with some 600 grit sandpaper, and then just go from there. So now that I've done all that sanding, I've done all the flat areas with the block, as you've seen, and that just gets those perfectly smooth, and all the little bits around here, and obviously all the curved, really tight spots I'm going to have to do by hand, because obviously you can't get the block in there. Those problem areas completely gone. Like, I'm stoked. I'm pretty lucky that I got a tank that didn't have any dents or any issues really, apart from where the badges were is the only thing that I wanted to patch. So yeah, it's worked out really well. I'm really stoked. So I'm just going to go around and spend some time around these areas just by hand and just get them all perfect, and then we can lay down some black. So I've just finished sanding the entire surface with the 600 grit sandpaper. That was the next step. It has come up really smooth. It is like spot on perfect, and in every sense all around the entire tank. If I was going to stay with this grey, I would just put clear over the top of it. It is just, I've spent a bit of time to prep the surface to get it right before I lay down the colour, and I think that's pretty much the secret with painting. I could be wrong, but from what I've learnt through the process is when you spend time trying to get it right on the underside, then if you're a half decent painter, you can potentially get a good looking paint job in the end. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lay down some black now, and then some green after that. I'll show you the process, so let's get into it. Now this is the decal that I had made by a graphic designer. Blair made this for me. I'll leave a link to his website in the description below. If you want to get anything obviously designed, then here's the guy to talk to, something for your tank or anything else on your motorcycle. Yeah, he'll just give you a basic rough idea of what you want, and he'll manipulate it and make it work, which is what he did for me. So yeah, that's going to go on the side, and the reason I want to get this perfect is because this is going on. I'm going to be painting the entire tank in green, and then I'm going to peel this off. So there's going to be pretty much a paint transition between, obviously, the sticker here where the paint actually is between the two colors, and I don't really want a big ridge there, so I'm going to not put too much paint on the very edges. So therefore, once I peel this off, I don't really want to wet and dry too close to that edge for too long, because you could potentially get rid of your nice perfect edge, if that makes any sense. Hopefully it did. But yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Stick the sticker on both sides, and then we can paint the whole thing in green. Let's get it started. So with putting this decal on a curved surface, everything went as expected. From about here to about here, it was perfect. And from about here down to here was perfect. But obviously that curve going that way really had a few little struggles. There's like 3 points on both sides, which, you can see the crease line, which doesn't matter because I only need the edge. As long as the edge is perfect, I'm just gonna play around here and try and get these edges spot on. And then as long as that edge is right, then once the paint goes on, I'll peel it off and I'll have a nice crisp line. That's all I'm really worried about. So just so you can see on this side, same scenario. It's 3 places where it's pretty much creased up, and this is the first time me putting a decal on a curved surface. So I did what I know, I used the skills that I had. You would have seen me using that spray, which was just basically dish soap and water, and it's the same as basically, I guess, when you're tinting a window, you get the film and you spray the window and you spray the back of the film where it's sticky, and then you can basically move it where you need, and then once you've pretty much got it in the position, you just squeeze it out from the center. Same thing I did with the sticker, and it worked quite well. It gave me the ability to manipulate it a little bit. It's spot on even on both sides, as good as I can by hand, so I measured it to try and get it perfect. So yeah, now it's just a matter of basically fixing up these little spots and then putting down some green paint. Standing back and looking at it being black and white actually looks pretty damn cool, but I've committed to paint it green, so it's going to go green. So what I'm going to do here with this section, I guess we'll call them pleats. I'm going to get this knife here and I'm going to slice it down this way just to try and take out the bulk of it, because it's a bit of a ridge at the moment. So if I can get it flat or as close to flat as I can, what I'll do is I'll get this orange fine line tape and just run that around the top edge there. And just obviously because it's only those 3 points which are the issue, and then once that's done, hopefully no paint can bleach down into this part that I'm trying to protect. So I'm going to try. I'm going to be really careful with this knife because I obviously don't want to cut into the paint. Worst case scenario, if I do, then I can always do the opposite to what I'm doing now and just use some of that orange fine line tape around the edge here once the green is on, and then repaint this section black. That's worst case. Hopefully I don't have to do that, but it's always an option if I do go a little bit hard with this knife. So nice and gentle, I'll just take my time. So that actually didn't work out too bad. As you can see, I'm only trying to get down the section wide enough for this tape, and that's it. I don't need any more. So after I do this orange tape along here on both sides, I'm about to lay down the green paint. But before I do that, what I'm going to do is wipe down the entire tank with a thing called a tack cloth. Now that'll get rid of all the bits of dust and fluff and everything that's landed on the tank from just a rag being wiped over it, and then I'll put down the green paint. So you won't have any of those bits of dust to, like, you can sort of see them here and there. So you can try and blow them off, but you're not going to be able to get all of them off unless you use, like I said, a tack cloth. I'll leave a link to this kind of stuff, all the bits and pieces I've used to paint this tank. I'll leave a link in the description below for you to grab if you're going to do the same thing. So I'm really blown away with how this has turned out. This is my first attempt of painting anything of this caliber. First time painting the fuel tank as well. Like, the lines are spot on. Like, me spending that extra time to try and get that right, especially up here. There's no imperfections in it at all. It worked out spot on. I'm happy with the color. I love it. I mean, absolutely so ecstatic with how it's turned out. The only thing is left to do really is put a clear over it. Now, because this is obviously shiny and this is matte, I want to pretty much make the entire tank matte. That was the plan. And the actual clear that I'm going to use is, I'll show you. So this is the paint that I'll be using. It's a 2K matte clear. It's a two-part, and the reason I'm using this is for fuel spillage, because I've just spent all that time getting this tank paint as good as I possibly can, and if I do get some fuel spillage, which I'm sure I'm going to, if I'm filling it up or if this seal isn't 100% perfect, something splashes out and runs down the tank, then all that paint work is just destroyed. So this stuff is going to protect the paint, and it's got a little red cap on the top here. You take that off, you press it up underneath, and it activates the hardener. Now that gives me 8 hours apparently to work this paint. So if you're going to paint the tank, just remember, you are going to be dealing with fuel at some point, so make sure the clear that you put over the top of it is going to be something that can not get attacked by fuel. I've now done 4 coats of this can. It's completely empty, and I'm starting to think that the guy that sold me this paint mixed up the color for me and also sold me this matte, put his name on the can. His name must have been Matt, because I really don't see any matte in that finish. That's pretty glossy to me. I mean, it looks awesome, but it's not what I'm after. So I'm gonna have to take this back to them and ask them what's going on. I don't know if I can just get another matte clear and just throw it straight on top of this. I'm sure you can, but I just don't know if that's going to solve the problem. Yeah, so I've got to find out. But yeah, that's the finish. It looks pretty damn good, but like I said, just not exactly what I was after. So today's Sunday, so I'll let this go and cure overnight, and by Monday morning I'll find out what's happening. So I just thought I'd throw the tank up as it is at the moment in gloss. I'm not going to be keeping it gloss. I just think that this green, this military style green, needs a matte or a satin finish. Gloss just doesn't suit it as well. As far as I'm concerned, that's my personal opinion, and that's what I'm going to do. But there are a few little imperfections in the clear coat. It's only in the clear coat. The actual paint itself, I think, is pretty damn good. They're going to be really hard to see. You can probably just see one there and one there. It's just dust that's landed on the clear coat as it's pretty much trying to dry. And there's nothing I can really do about that, unfortunately, because I don't have a spray booth. Unless I was to make myself a spray booth just for this tank, I guess I could do that. The reason it's gloss and not matte is purely because apparently I've got to leave it a lot longer between putting the second coat, third coat, and fourth coat on. I left it about 20 minutes between coats, and that's what I was recommended. But apparently I've got to leave it even longer than that. So I've got to put a coat on and leave it about 40 minutes to an hour to let it really flatten out, and then just do that each coat. I didn't realize this. I thought it was about 20 minutes to half an hour, so that's apparently why it's really glossy. So I'm going to try it again. Hopefully, second attempt, it's going to turn out a lot more matte than it is right now. But, if not, I'm eventually going to get it. It's eventually going to work, and it's going to have a hell of a lot of clear on top of this tank, so it's going to be nice and durable at least. So the next step, I guess, is sand it entirely down with 800 grit sandpaper, or wet and dry. Obviously run it wet, just to get out those little imperfections. And there's no real ridge there. I can't really feel anything that's major, which is between the black and the green, which I thought there would be, but there really isn't. But this would be the time when I would probably sand that the clear a little bit to try and get that more smooth. If there was a defined line between the two, I think maybe a tiny bit, but nothing really noticeable that's going to be, standing out. Yeah, so pretty much 800 grit sandpaper, wet and dry. I'll do that wet, and then clean the entire tank back down with some wax and grease remover, and process all over again. So I'll put some clear on it, wait an hour, and then put the next layer on, wait an hour, next layer or next coat, and that's pretty much going to be done. Fingers crossed it works this time. So these are the two cans that I pretty much got. This is the first one that's empty now, and this one's the second one that obviously take two of trying to get this matte. I don't know enough about paint to know whether there is actually a matte component in it or not, but it didn't work, so take two hopefully. This black can is going to be the magic finishing touch to make this thing look awesome. So this has just been done, like literally 2 minutes ago, with that matte clear, and it is perfect. It's spot on, exactly what I wanted. That looks so good. I think I went up probably a little bit heavy or a little bit light, I'm not sure, through the center here. Hopefully that'll fix up on the next coat. But yeah, as you can see, it is magic. Really happy with how it turned out. So if you look down on this tank here, you can see right down the center here, there's like, I don't know what you would explain it. It's kind of like a discoloration, and it's right underneath the actual clear coat. It wasn't there when I had the clear, you know, the gloss over it, but as soon as I did this matte, and it showed up. I don't know if I didn't put enough on the first coat or what, but like I said, it could be a blessing in disguise, because I could do something down the center of this tank here, whether it be a decal or whether something. What I was thinking about doing is recreating something like this, like a frame that kind of comes down the tank, gives it a bit of a tough look down here, with some sort of, you know, crossing on it, or I don't know, just some ideas that just came to me. When I first saw that, I'm like, well, it's kind of there now. I'm not sure if I can get rid of it. Perfectionist side of me is, it's going to annoy me, so I'm going to have to do something. But if you have any ideas, leave me a comment down below about what you think I should do about that small little, you know, I guess imperfection in the paint or in the clear coat. Failing that, you know, if it really bugs me enough, then I could always focus. If it really bugs me enough, I could always just sand it, you know, sand that, I guess, matte down till it gets down past that point, and then I guess rematte it. But I'm running the risk of, you know, that happening somewhere else, because I don't know what caused it. But it feels amazing, looks awesome, and I'm stoked. I'm really happy with how this has turned out.